I'm Don Straney, and although I'm currently Chancellor at UH Hilo, I'm a biologist by training. And I first came to this island in the 1980s because I was interested in the ants that were here. They were all introduced. And the Ag Inspection Service has an estimate of when they were first seen, and I was interested to look at how the history of the spread was going on. But then I got dragged into administrative stuff, and I've never actually been able to go back and do those studies that I'd like to. When I joined those of you in the retired category, I've got a lot of work left to do. What I want to do today is sort of give you an overview of some of the programs at UH Hilo and where we're going, particularly in the tech area. And I want to leave time for questions because I suspect some of you may have some, and I'm interested in hearing what you think UH Hilo should be involved with, particularly on this side of the island. So a little background. We consider ourselves one of the applied campuses in the UH system. UH Manoa does everything for everybody. We focus with about 4,000 students and 200 faculty on preparing students for careers. And yes, they learn all the theory and they learn the latest stuff that people are doing, but they also learn how to use it and how to apply it in particular situations and how to use it for problem solving. We try to provide a firm foundation for students to understand, particularly the Hawaii context for what we do. What is it about Hawaii that's particularly unique? What are the lessons you take from Hawaii? My attitude is that if we learn what we do well here, we can teach the rest of the world. And we want our students to be able to do that. We're requiring the students to have an applied learning experience before they graduate. And with 4,000 students, we can do that. Manoa is a little too big to be able to pull that off. So it's either an internship, participating in a research effort, participating in a significant community service project, or something where you use what it is that you've been learning in a real world context, and you know what it is you'll do when you get out of school. We focus, because we have a residential component, on living learning opportunities. So it's not just classroom learning, but it's also working together with the people that you live with at all hours of the day. And we're focusing in the last several years on making really good pathways between the community college on this island and on the other islands and UH Hilo. We're blessed in this state to have the community college as part of the same system as the other campuses. And for some people, starting at the community college makes the most sense. We want to be sure that if you start there, it's easy to transfer into a 4-year program when you want to, whether that's after you've finished 2 years in community college or 6 years after you've gotten out and started and working, and then discover what it is that you want to study and get a 4-year degree for. So those pathways are becoming increasingly important. The programs we've been building over the last several years have been the full array of STEM programs. We've got a very strong physics and astronomy program, no surprise considering where we are. I think we're the only undergraduate astronomy program in the country that has its own telescope, and ours is located on Mauna Kea. And we have students who come to attend UH Hilo's astronomy program from as far away as Norway, because if they know about astronomy, they know about Mauna Kea, and they might as well be close to it. And that's a good logic stream. We're particularly strong in biology, particularly in conservation areas. There are many things on this island that need to be conserved and can still be preserved. Many other islands, it's sort of past the point where you could do that. And so it's particularly important on this island to be able to learn how to do that effectively before the pigs take all of the endemic mint species out of the forests, or before human development really changes things. Agriculture has been important at UH Hilo. During the plantation phase, we had a strong program in soil science and sugar growing. We're now rebuilding that program to focus more on small farmer farming, and agribusiness, not just how to grow, but how to have a career growing. And we're interested in developing some programs that work into how you just get food from the place where it's grown to the place where people buy it, and that sort of thing. A special program we developed is a Veterans to Farmers program that's based in Waimea, where we're working with veterans who want to develop skills in agriculture as a career choice. That means they don't have to go get jobs in the city when they demobilize. And there's some really heartwarming aspects of that program that's serving the needs for some people who are coming out of the service looking for a reasonably quiet and productive place to live. And we're the place where all of the immersion school teachers in the state receive their training. And building up the immersion school system has helped keep the Hawaiian language a thriving and growing language. We're looking to expand that into college level degrees that are taught in Hawaiian as well as in English. It's surprising how many careers there are that have developed in the last 20 years if you're fluent in Hawaiian. In business, in communication, in media, arts, a variety of things. It's a career stream that I think offers some a model for what we could do with some other fields. Now, what we're in the process of developing going forward are a number of programs. First, we're developing an aviation program on the island. This would be a 2-year and a 4-year aviation degree. And for those of you who don't know, with a 4-year college degree in aviation science, you have a commercial pilot's license. And so now you'll be able to get that on the island. At the moment, there is no 4-year aviation degree in the state. There's a 2-year at Honolulu CC. And last year, there was something on the order of 40 Hawaii students that went to mainland universities to get this degree and paid out-of-state tuition. We're developing the program to offer. Here, we're also going to offer a 2-year helicopter degree through Hawaii CC. Both fixed wing and helicopters are sort of the new canoes, and can have considerable utility in opening up some job and career prospects. We're getting ready this next month to take our proposal for a new engineering degree at UH Hilo to the Board of Regents for final approval. And I'll have a little bit more to say about that in a minute, but this is a degree that we'll offer here. Currently, you can do 2 years in engineering and then you have to transfer to Manoa. We're designing this degree to be offered on this island. We're developing a master's program in heritage management. Those of you who do any construction can appreciate that to get construction permits, you have to do assessments of cultural things that are where you might want to build. Widen Queen K, it's been a considerable amount of heritage studies. You have to have a master's to do that by law. You can't get that master's in Hawaii right now. You have to go to the mainland to get it. So we're developing the program to offer on the island, and I think it's particularly important that we offer on this island because so much of our history here is on our skin. It's on the outside. It's so evident and so visible. And I think that's another career stream that's based in Hawaii that's going to be important. We're working on developing a doctorate in physical therapy, sort of paralleling the pharmaceutical degree that we've developed. And we're working on a PhD in tropical conservation biology, taking our expertise in that area to a logical conclusion. We're spending a lot of time focusing on sustainability, both in degree programs and in practice. We established a system in the cafeteria where 1 day a month they serve a full meal of only local food. And I initially asked that they do it once a week, but they couldn't. because the supply wasn't dependable enough. So I've warned them that it's not too long before I'm going to start asking that we force the issue and get to once a week, because this is an area where I think market demand will help small holding farmers develop a dependable enough supply to invest in growing particular crops. And I think as a public institution on this island, we have an obligation to help the growth of that local industry. We're developing an energy management and recycling plan on campus. So as an example, our energy bill last year was $4.3 million. And that was up about $500,000 from the year before, which was up about $900,000 from the year before that. And for every $1 million of bill, that's 100 courses I can't offer. Right? Man, I mean, I only have so much money, and if I got to put it in electricity, I don't put teachers in front of students. So we worked with Cornell University last year to do an energy audit, and they came up with a suggestion that we take 4 of our buildings off the grid and make them self-sustaining with a variety of energy sources and with energy storage. That's an experiment. It's not earth-shaking. 4 buildings is just 4 buildings. It won't affect anyone else's energy bill. But it's a challenge for us as an institution and as a campus to basically say, yeah, again, as the university on this island, we have an obligation to experiment with other ways of managing energy, and this is the one we're going to take and we're going to try. We're currently at the cap of photovoltaics that we can have for the circuit that we're on. So if we put more up, we've got to get off the grid. And this is one way to do that and learn something at the same time. With the engineering program we're developing, this becomes a laboratory. And we should be able to help graduate engineers who've learned by doing it how to manage multiple sources of energy, how to balance the load in a true microgrid of something very small, but at the same time, make it more efficient for us to work. We've involved a number of our students in research projects, both with the Cornell Sustainability Institute and the Kohala Center, in an ongoing program of trying to expand our understanding of how we can make energy costs on this island something that we control and not just something that we suffer. We have a lot of partnerships that helps expand what I can do with 200 faculty. If all we had was 200 faculty, our ability to do state-of-the-art work that may make a difference on the quality of life on this island would be limited. But with all of the federal laboratories and all of the state scientists who are on this island, we've got a pretty impressive cadre of people who can work with students in very practical situations. The federal fish and wildlife biologists, for example, know the theory, but they're interested in how to protect the fisheries in Hawaii. Whatever it is, there's a bottom line there that they have to be able to deliver on. Our students have the ability to work with them in those real-world settings. And so there are a number of those that we have, and then we also are working closely with the University of Guam and with several of the universities in some of the Pacific Island nations, because frankly, we share many of the same issues. On the Hilo side, water seems to be in abundance. On the Kona side, water is an issue. And if you go to the Marshall Islands, water is an even more pressing issue because in 100 years, if climate change continues, there won't be any potable water on the island. So understanding the dynamics of water, understanding the dynamics of climate change, understanding what we can do to manage or ameliorate is something that we share across the whole Pacific Basin. UH Hilo does have a fair amount of research going on. Manoa is the research campus in the state, and that's where most of it happens. But 2 years ago, we had $17 million worth of federal grants in Hilo. And that hired 575 people, which is a lot of jobs. The average income for those 575 people, if you take it to an annual basis, because some of them were part-time, the average income was $43,000 a year. In a town of Hilo, where the per capita average income is $23,000 a year. So this industry, if you will, of discovery with federal support for research and application work is generating a significant income in Hilo. And I think with a little bit of care, the same can be done on this side of the island. We're sitting in a place that's a prime example of what can be done with considerable state funding. But how can we expand the federal research opportunities that are present over here? UH Hilo is in the process of finalizing a lease from the state for 5 acres at Puoko, on which we will build a marine education center. And that will allow us to bring in scientists from across the world who will bring this type of money to the Puoko area, to West Hawaii, and can help begin the flow of what is really rather a lot of money that's coming in from the federal government. None of this is earmarked money. None of this is money that went away when we lost the influence of the senator. This is money that's generated because of the cool ideas that the people who work at UH Hilo have. And some of them are students. We also have a research park in Hilo that has an additional 400 jobs. And so this, the creative, curiosity-driven industry in Hilo that's based at the university is generating a lot of impact economically. So the types of things we're interested in developing on the research side, these are related to the educational programs, but they're also go beyond what we're going to teach. It's what we're going to work on. Informatics, engineering, unmanned aerial vehicles, and aviation, sensor webs, and big data. I put them all up there to give you a sense of what I want to talk about. I want to talk about each of them in a little bit of detail. So Google makes its money by analyzing what you do with it. And they've created an incredible business for themselves just by analyzing data. But they're analyzing a massive amount of it and making sense of it in a way that allows them to predict what you should be buying next and to ask if you don't want to. And of course, their algorithms are good enough that they hit really rather a lot of times. Amazon does the same way. Using the same type of study of information, big amounts of information in other contexts is just beginning to develop across the world. One of the key areas is in health information. And the College of Pharmacy has had 2 large grants from the federal government to study how a county like Hawaii and how a profession like pharmacists can share medical information in a way that's secure, confidential, but can reduce the cost of providing medical care. So both of these grants have had outcomes where the federal government said, we'll give you the money, but you've got to show us that you can use medical information, share it among providers, and save money on the cost of providing healthcare. And they're working on those systems here, and making some really good progress. This will be part of the whole statewide health information network. But how you manage everybody's information and what you can do with it is a difficult question. But it should be the case that someone who sees me when I go in for a checkup or something can quickly find out that I haven't been going to the pharmacist to get the meds that I was prescribed, and can say, why didn't you do that? So that we can close the information loops and help people manage their health more directly. In another area, Don Price on our faculty has been working on understanding the genetics of the animals on this island. And why there are so many different types of fruit flies, for example, and how ohia trees speciated across the different islands. Working on genetic data of that magnitude is something that, again, has a direct influence on how we work on personal health information downstream. The engineering program that we're going to start is going to have three focal areas. You can do, engineering is a very broad subject, and the traditional way of doing engineering is to break it into silos: civil, electrical, mechanical, chemical, industrial. And so you learn a lot about one thing. I have two civil engineers who are brothers, and they can bore you to tears about concrete. But they get real quiet if you start talking about an electric circuit in the house. They say, I know what's going on, but I really can't tell you. So the traditional approach to engineering focuses more on specialization than it does on a broad understanding. We're going after a generalized engineering degree that cuts across all of the subdisciplines, so that you know enough about all of those to be able to ask questions in a real life situation. But we're going to focus on three specific types of areas where, frankly, this state needs engineers. One is on instrumentation. How do you get information about something that's going on remotely? Think about telescopes. Those are the gold standard of instruments, because they're getting information about light from billions of miles away. How do you generalize, though, and use that same technology that lets you find stars that you couldn't see with your naked eye if you tried? How do you apply that to marine exploration? How do you apply that in agriculture? How do you apply the instrumentation in different problems in different domains where we have interests? And so we're going to focus on that question. We're going to focus on the engineering of energy, both its generation and its distribution. And we're going to focus on bioproduct engineering. What can you do with the agricultural plants that you produce that isn't just making food out of them? How do you get oil out of them that you can use for biofuel? How do you get compounds out of them that you could use for nutraceuticals and medicines? And that the product chemistry of individual biological things. These are the types of engineering jobs that this state needs. We need people who understand, from a really practical engineering sense, how we approach these types of questions. And our goal is to provide engineering education for people whose first jobs will be in Hawaii, as opposed to training engineers who could work anywhere in the world, and very often do. The state right now is a net exporter of engineers. Somewhat related is the possibility of developing some expertise in unmanned aerial vehicles. We're exploring that right now, and Richard Ha from Hamakua Springs has been in touch with us about his need to survey his agricultural land to monitor and detect the spread of a virus affecting bananas. And I mean, you can slog through the ground a lot and do it by hand, but if you can hover above the crops, you can get the information very easily. Now, the FAA has some constraints on how you use unmanned vehicles, and we're working through the permits necessary to do this. But from my perspective, unmanned aerial vehicles are pretty much robotics 2.0. These are things that do in 3 dimensions what robots do in 2, to oversimplify it for those of you in robotics. If the questions about how you get robots to do stuff on the ground is interesting, how you get them to do stuff in the air or underwater is even cooler. And that's the type of program that we're moving into. We're starting by doing some research on it. And part of the aviation program that we're going to offer will involve UAV training as well. Another aspect of instruments is to put a broad array of sensors in the environment. And we have some folks who are studying some of the forests on the island who are instrumenting the forest, not just individual trees. And so they're putting sensors on trees that detect rainfall patterns, pH, temperature, solar insolation levels, variety of different variables across a huge swath above La Pahuehoe. That's a massive amount of data, but it turns that chunk of forest into the best documented ecosystem of trees anywhere in the world. How do we take that approach and generalize it so that we can say this 4,000 square miles in the middle of the Pacific might be 4,000 square miles where we know more about the natural processes happening here and in the coast off the shore than anywhere else in the world. And the focus on instrumentation and the work that our faculty are doing on deploying these sensor webs across the landscape offers some really interesting possibilities to understand how Hawaii Island works from a biological and a geological perspective. And the whole question of big data comes down to how are you going to manage all the bits, the computer science piece. And we have probably the strongest computer science program in the state right now. 4 of our computer science students won the U.S. Imagine Cup offered by Microsoft this past year. They beat out every other university in the country. And they competed directly against Harvard and Carnegie Mellon and what have you, and they won. And I got to tell you, the phone call I got that said, hey, they won, is one of the moments I will cherish for a long time, because it's not what you'd expect. UH Hilo, computers, believe it, because they were able to do it. They went to St. Petersburg for the international competition and did well, but didn't win. But being U.S. champions isn't bad. These students worked with the faculty in the computer science department intensely over the course of a year, developing the piece of software that they used in the competition. It's a piece of software that's really simple. It's for civil defense and emergency situations. You take your cell phone, you take a picture of something you think's wrong. The software on your phone sends it to civil defense, notes where it is, when it is, and allows the civil defense people to get a sense real quickly of what's happening. And if you imagine what we could have done over here after the Japanese tsunami, we would have known a lot more, a lot faster than the 2 or 3 days it took to get all of the information sort of coordinated after people had been out and going around. It's a really simple concept, but what they were able to do was to make it work, and make it work in a really straightforward way. So we have emerging opportunities as well. Health management overall, pharmacy is looking at nutraceuticals, not just pharmaceuticals. What can you take that you don't need FDA approval for? How many of you have pets? Like pet treats and pet food and pet medicine. It's expensive. So what if you could have a doggy biscuit that had an anti-cancer compound in it? A compound that we know inhibits the formation of some types of cancer. It'd be worth paying the extra money for that. The College of Pharmacy is developing just that sort of biscuit made with locally grown plant material. And I'm looking forward to it coming out because I've got 2 dogs who are old and probably deserve it. One of the career streams for people coming out of our engineering program might be in independent consulting as energy managers. Someone who has the training and background to come into someone's house or someone's business and to do an energy audit and make recommendations for what they could do to lower the cost, increase the efficiency and that sort of thing, but to do it from a knowledge base experience, not just from book learning and wishful thinking. And in some ways, Hawaii Island has the possibility of generating a learning industry. We have a lot of people who come here for a variety of reasons, a lot of visitors. We have some students who come here to take degrees from elsewhere. But how could we find a piece in the middle between vacation tourists on the one hand and international students on the other that would have people coming to Hawaii Island, and they're probably going to come to West Hawaii, to learn, to take continuing education classes, to take professional development classes, or to take things that are just interesting and catch their attention. And one of our challenges as an island is to think about how would we develop that type of industry. Finally, a big emerging opportunity comes when the 30-meter telescope goes online. That's going to bring a very large number of very smart people with some very good technical skills to the island. They're going to be developing new types of instruments to go on the telescope. They're going to be making discoveries. They're going to be managing big amounts of data. And what happens with astronomy towns frequently is that they start throwing off startup companies because the scientist who developed this new camera technology says, you know, people might buy this to use at home, not just on telescopes. And Tucson, Arizona is an example of a town that out of the concentration of astronomy resources, developed a number of industries that were spin-offs from the telescope. And I think our challenge on Hawaii Island is going to be to help that happen when the 30-meter telescope comes online. What's it going to take to do that? Well, I mean, you know, there's zoning things, and there are things you can talk to a mayor about and a county council. But from an educational point of view, we do need to have a workforce that's prepared to help these companies take off so they don't have to import trained and skilled people from the mainland. I think at the core, it's going to mean helping students on this island be really good at math, because math is in many ways the gateway to technology-based careers. Now, my mother was a mathematician, and my father was an engineer. My mother tried to teach me mathematics, but I learned it from my father, because he told me what you did with it. My mother told me why you wanted to love the equations, but it was how you used it that mattered to me. And with the technology opportunities we have coming on this island, I think one of the questions for us as educators is to think about how do we really grab students' attention in the way that robotics has clearly grabbed several of you, and draw you into learning the challenging subjects that you really need to master to have a chance of having a career there. You can't get a degree in engineering unless you have 2 years of calculus. And if you don't like math, you're not going to get 2 years of calculus, you're going to do something else. So I think math is something that as a community, we on this island really need to look at and ask, how are we going to help our upcoming students slay that subject and master it and be able to own the careers that can be developed here because of opportunities like the 30-meter telescope that just aren't going to be other places. UH Hilo has Hilo in its name, but we are active across the island. And we're increasing the number of areas where we have programs and locations. As I mentioned, Puako is coming online. We currently offer a 4-year bachelor's in business administration here in West Hawaii. And we're looking to offer more here. But we'd like to know what to offer, because there's no point in throwing something up. I don't think a bachelor's degree in Sanskrit would sell here. But what what is it that would help West Hawaii? What is it that students would take over here? And we're really interested in what those might be. Palamanui campus is a community college program, and we help Palamanui every way we can. They're going to offer 2-year programs. The 4-year programs we're going to offer from UH Hilo in West Hawaii are going to build on what they've offered. So we'll offer 3rd and 4th year programs. The things you take in your first 2 years, you take through the Palamanui campus. And that way, we're looking to be synergistic and work with each other. So in the end, we have several parts of UH that together create UH's presence and contribution to Hawaii Island. We're trying actively to work together, and we're trying to help create new opportunities for students to get here on the island, and opportunities that can create careers. So if you want to be an engineer, you don't have to go to Hong Kong and do building construction. Stay here and do energy audits and help us understand how to bring the price of energy down. Anyway, so that's a quick overview of what we're doing and where we're going. I'd be happy to answer any questions, and I'd love to have any ideas on where we might expand and what we might do. Yeah?
I just wondered if the civil defense program that you were talking about, has that been integrated with the county government or civil defense office? Or?
Yeah, they have had meetings with county civil defense. I don't know what the status is of adopting it, but Help Me Help is the name of the app. And I believe it's in the iTunes store. I know I can get it, but they gave it to me, so I don't know exactly how widely they'll. Again, that's the type of thing we want our students to be able to do. Something that you go, hey, I can see how I can use that.
What are you proposing to offer at the Palamanui campus?
Well, Palamanui, the community college is going to offer the programs through the Palamanui campus as it opens. And I believe the plan is to begin by offering the core of what's offered in the Kamakakula campus. So, emphasis on nursing and culinary, 2-year programs. But we're actively talking with the community college about how we can come up with a 4-year program that we can offer that would attract students into a STEM curriculum in the first 2 years of the community college. And that's where I could use some advice. Like, marine science, marine biology is one that comes to mind just because it's there. Kinesiology, exercise science, health education. That's another suite of programs that we could offer. But I really want to know what people here would like to.
What if you did like a biomed?
Yeah, right. That would be something very closely related to the bioproducts thing that we're doing, but with a specific medical component. Yeah, that's a good one.
Some of our students are really reluctant to go down to there because it's not face-to-face, there's no labs, it's all online. So are you intending to have a continuation of that online? I get to talk to a teacher, I don't have a physics lab, I don't have any of those things, I can't take higher level math except online. So are we gonna have something different there?
Yeah, I have a short attention span. If you wanted me to take a course online, I'd never finish it. And I don't think I'm unique. The feedback I've gotten from talking to several groups in West Hawaii is we need real people. Okay, I know there's a lot of stuff available digitally, but we need real people to learn from. And I believe that's true. So the business admin program that we're offering now, we have faculty from Hilo who come over here once a week for extended meetings with the students. And with after the 7th and the new part of Center Road opens, getting over here from Hilo is going to be a commute rather than a trip. And I'm looking to really find a way to teach 2 sections of the same course on both sides of the island with the same instructor and have them be physically present in one or the other classroom in alternate sessions and be connected digitally in the other. There's nothing between me and getting that done except a little bit of planning and knowing which courses to offer. But I absolutely believe that our students learn best from someone who breathes in front of them.
So, all of the high schools had to take the ACT test this last year.
Right.
And part of it was, what do you want to do or whatnot. So I'm pretty sure the data is available as far as, what kids are
Interest level, yeah.
interest level. I know that doesn't necessarily mean that's what they're exactly going to do,
But
but I
it's a
thought
starting point.
that might be a really good place to take a look at, what kids are interested in looking at. And I was surprised. It was a lot of science and technology, based.
Right.
A high percentage.
So students get those results, schools get those results.
Right.
It's very hard for the university to get those
Sure.
results.
Well,
So
we can send it to you.
Yeah, I was gonna say I
I have it.
I know you have it, but technically the students have to give you the permission to send it to them.
But not the aggregate, because
Not
The
the
aggregate.
we published it.
So we're working with the P20 folks and DOE to find a way to do that, because one of the things I'd like to do is I'd like to develop a 1-week summer program for high school juniors between the junior and the senior year that would give them a taste of college and would get them ready to apply and to be successful in getting into college. And to be effective at that, I kind of need to know something like an ACT score. Right? I need some measure without having to do another test. And so that's why we're talking to them, because we'd like to set that up.
Are you aware of, I think it was called the SSTP program in the 80s?
Not
Funded
yet.
by the National Science. It
Oh,
was at
yeah.
Hilo, and I can't remember the name. My daughter was in it.
Right.
And that was the takeoff. It was
Right.
all the higher level smart kids from Hawaii.
Right. And I got my start in a similar program on the shores of another ocean.
It was a wonderful program.
So how do we do that so it's not just the really smart people? How do we do that
Well,
and make
that's
it accessible
to
to a lot?
restart it, and
Yeah.
they lost the funding from it.
Because we're dependent on the federal.
And they tried to keep it going for a few years, and
So what if the university had scholarships to offer the students during the summer after their junior year to come do that? That's one of the things people like me do is we raise money for
remember, but
scholarships.
they had the kids who had gone through the program before were the counselors in the dorm, so they were giving, and they took them to all the science
Right.
stuff on the island. It was an absolute wonderful program.
And the fundamental question is, how do we get back to doing something like that? And not be dependent on the National Science Foundation always writing them a check. Is that something that we can support ourselves?
Is that something we can do here, not go to Hilo?
Yeah.
Let's get 500 jobs here, they're good jobs, have to do with university, let's do it
Yes.
here.
Yes.
Let's have a summer program here.
Yes. Yes. Again, Hilo might be in UH Hilo's name, but I view our responsibility to grow education on the island. And you don't have to come to Hilo to get it.
I have a question about remediation. Coming out of the high school, how many students do we not have? Because they need remediation in basic English and math.
Remediation in Hawaii is handled by the community colleges.
Yeah.
So you can't get into the 4-year school until you finish the remediation in the community
But
college.
you do have a large cadre of
Yes.
students who have to do that.
That's right. But since it's in the community college, I don't get the numbers.
No.
I can't tell Matt, do you know the numbers offhand?
2,000 kids graduate from high school a year here. About 1,000 go to college somewhere. Of that 1,000, I think 40% go to the Hawaii CC, and about 20% go to UH Hilo, about 20% somewhere else in the state, 20% out of state.
So it's some portion of the 40% who are going to community colleges that need remediation. I don't think the remediation problem here is any worse than it is anywhere else in the U.S. In Los Angeles, where I was before, it was a challenge. And the challenge is when students have to have remediation in both math and English. Right? If it's one, you can get through that. If it's both, you start behind the curve. And that's the trick. I mean, we really do need to get a better dialogue going between parents, teachers, colleges about how we're going to fix that. Yeah.
How extensive is your night school program? And you have a lot of adults wanting to attend evening classes.
So we don't divide it by evening or day. In an urban setting, night school is something that is labeled that and separately scheduled. We do have a significant number of what we call non-traditional students, people who are older than 25 and are coming back after they've been working or doing something else before coming to school. It's a population I'd like to increase. I'm particularly interested, as we did with the agriculture program, in attracting veterans to come and continuing their education at UH Hilo. Having been in Los Angeles for 8 years and worked with veterans there are real reasons why they should come and study here. I think they would be more successful, and I think they would enrich our community if they came.
How many classes would you offer classes at night?
Matt?
Yeah, I think that's something we have to look into. We are a relatively small campus, which means that if we try to offer everything during the daytime, and we can't offer multiple sections of a class, it means that students are going to be in a situation where both of the classes they want meet at the same time. So I think we're going to have to think about expanding the hours, and that might include more adult education classes as well.
I'm definitely open to looking at that. We're trying to incentivize the departments who are trying to learn how to expand their view of what to do. And so I'm doing some profit sharing plans with the departments, so if they offer things out of the ordinary, they get to share some of the benefit of doing that. And evening classes, weekend classes, different ways of packaging the classes are things that we really want to look at.
A couple of things. Volcanology springs to mind since we're sitting here
Right.
with that.
Yeah.
So let's take advantage of that. Another thought I have is, the future of education really is going to be blended learning. Mm-hmm. So, although we kind of feel like we've had the online experience, can you imagine offering the opportunity to students on this island to study with some of the great minds in their field of study around the world? I mean, that's an amazing opportunity, but we have to do it right. And the other thing I'd like to think about is, when you run a small business, the thing you're looking for is the pull from the market. So you're looking for people out there that are putting up their hands going, I'll buy whatever you're going to make, just open your door and I'll do that. And if you look around this room at the number of students that we have in robotics, we have a grassroots interest here in a number of our schools for an advanced robotics engineering degree. Something like this, and whether we use it to explore the ocean in a remotely operated vehicle, or whether we're using it up in the air as an aerial vehicle, I mean, we've got students that are sitting here going, I love this. This is what I want to do.
It's the one manufacturing industry we could actually pull off.
Yes.
Because the supply chain is cheap. You're not shipping big slabs of metal, but you're shipping components in a bag. And what you produce has considerable more value than the sum of the cost of the individual thing. Yes.
I know, like for me, I'd be interested in more of industrial or mechanical engineering.
Yeah.
And I know the only way I can get that is to go to Oahu or off island.
Right.
Is there a way that could happen here?
Right.
Without me
The-
having to travel?
So what is traditionally called mechanical engineering would probably fit into what we're going to focus on with instrumentation. How do you take bits and pieces and get them to work together? And so I think we could give you that. And you're junior now?
Senior.
Senior. The program with what will be approved this year?
And start
Fall.
next fall.
I had a question, how easy would it be for the community to get involved with the university as far as being instructors or teaching? Because here we have a lot of even retired people that come that have a lot of knowledge
Right.
that they could share back.
Right. And
Maybe they don't want to become full professors, maybe it's just an instructor for a semester where they teach a course.
right, because there are other things in life than being a professor. I can assure you of that. Yeah. So as an example, in this engineering program, the freshman class in the first semester is going to be paired with a local engineer, one-on-one, and they're going to shadow them a couple of hours every week for the first semester, and be mentored and learn what it really means to be an engineer. What is it you do? What are the values? What type of work is it? How do you deal with the people who come in and work with you? And for engineering, that's particularly important because you've got those 2 years of calculus ahead of you. And it would be really nice to have some motivation for why you're going to put up with it if math isn't your first love, which it isn't mine. So that's an example of how we're going to involve engineers on this island and working with the students. There's a concept that's growing across the United States where we talk about professors of practice. So we got professors who went to school for too long and got degrees and they did a lot of research and that. But professors of practice are people who know as much, if not more, but they learned it by doing it. Right? They don't have the college degree necessarily, but they've got a lot of time spent in the field doing things. And universities are increasingly pulling professionals in to augment the faculty that they have, the typical university-bred faculty, to give the students a much more real experience. So engineering, the quality of an engineering graduate is a function of problems they can walk in and start solving tomorrow. They have to work in the real world. It can't just be theory. And that's a discipline where I think professors of practice are going to be a group that we're going to be actively courting. So, yes.
But I understood in order to teach at the Palamanui campus or any of the community colleges that you had to have a teaching credential.